happening on gold. So moving on to gold, on gold, what do we have here on gold? Well, I'm expecting a bullish momentum anyway, and let me close this one. We don't need this right now. And the reason why I'm expecting a bullish momentum here on the gold, let's go to a higher time frame. Let's say the daily time frame, for instance. And on the daily time frame, we would notice our price as, let's go to the weekly. I think it's more precise on the weekly. Uh, Allow me to extend this a little further. Okay, great. So one thing you will notice here on the weekly time frame for the gold is that this linear trend line has been a major determinant of price action, as anytime price breaks above this trend line, price continues to the upside, and whenever it breaks down that trend line, price continues to the downside. And you can see that vividly, as we can see what has been happening since 2015. We see a breakdown, price continue to a break above, price continue to the upside, a breakdown, price continue to oscillate below it, you can see. And when we saw a breakout of that area, price continued to respect that trend line, and the breakout happened sometime April 2020, and since then price has been oscillating right above that bullish trend line. And if you look at what has been happening in the last couple of weeks, we can see our price has been rejecting that trend line multiple times. We can see multiple rejection of that trend line, giving us a sign into the strength of the buyers at this point in time. And you can, let me give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about. We saw the bearish move to the downside here. We saw price do a rejection in the last 3 weeks, we can see. And since the beginning of the week, price has been within this area. And remember what I normally used to tell you regarding when price is around a trend line, whatsoever trend line. It could be a bullish, it could be a bearish trend line. When price is around that area, we really need to be very, very careful, as this is a very, very sensitive area. This is a very sensitive area here. And why I said it's a sensitive area, considering the fact that it is sitting on a bullish trend line at this point, and we've been seeing a consolidation phase around that area, as in there's an indecision around that area as price continue to juxtapose between a certain phase. The possibility of a breakdown of that area is very, very possible, where a breakdown and retest of structure could send price crashing to the downside. So because of this, we need to be very, very wary and very, very conscious as we want to look for significant confirmation to join a bullish potential here on the gold. So in that regard, what we need to do is to scale down to a lower time frame, where we want to be looking out for structures that will give us a scenario that looks like a breakout of structure, retest of structure to join the rally to the upside if the bullish momentum is going to hold. So now, because of this, we want to scale down to a much lower time frame, let's say the 2 hours time frame, to see how price has been playing out in the last couple of days. So we delete this at this point, and let's see what is happening since the beginning of the week. Okay, in the last 2 weeks, I guess. If we look at what has been happening in the last 2 weeks, we can see that this area at $1,840 area has been a major supply zone. And what is that? Let me give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about. We see since the beginning of the month, we saw our price came down, have been selling, and then we saw price come back up here. And since the beginning of last week, we saw our price has been selling from this 1,840, 1,845 area. We've been seeing selling momentum from this area since that time. So we can see multiple rejection of that area. We can see our price has been moving to the downside from that area. So what this simply means is that this area here is a major selling point, is a selling niche. As anytime price comes into this area, we see participants pushing price to the downside from that area, giving us a clue into the strength of the sellers at that juncture in the market. So what I notice here is they're trying to push, participants are trying to push price to the downside. That is, they want to break that bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame, on the weekly time frame rather, retest of structure to push price further to the downside. So to assist us and to make things simpler for us, one thing I want to be doing here is this. If you are a long-term trader and you keen to take advantage of a long-term perspective, I'll outrightly say that we hold on and let's see how a breakout of that $1,840 area happens. And if we do see a significant breakout of that $1,840 area, then a retest of that structure which patterns on lower time frame that will support a trend continuation. If that happens, then we could join the rally to the upside with a take profit at around at least a minimum of $1,870 at least for the meantime. That's the one scenario for the bullish momentum. The second scenario is this. We can see that the last time price touched the bullish trend line was we saw one here in the month of May. We saw one here in the month of May, and we saw another one here in the month of June, this month. And one thing we noticed in the month of May is that we saw as soon as price came into that area, we found something that looks more like a reversal pattern. It looks more like an inverse head and shoulder, but not clearly an inverse head and shoulder anyway, but looks close to an inverse head and shoulder pattern, which is a very strong reversal pattern from a technical perspective. Now, a breakout of that reversal pattern happened in the later part of May. We saw a breakout of that reversal pattern, and that gives us a neckline sitting right at $1,830, which is more or less a very strong psychological level. Now, we saw a breakout of that level. We saw a breakout of that level, and price did a sharp retest of this area before it moved up, then came back down on the 1st of June, respected that area, pushed price further up, came back down again on the 10th of June, pushed price up, and then we saw back here again, we saw another reversal pattern forming on that trend line, and we saw another breakout of the structure, respect of that area, breakout, then breakdown again happened. And one thing I want to be saying here is this. If you followed me in the last couple of seconds explaining this area, you would agree that this $1,830 area has been a significant point where buyers were taking charge of the market. You can see we have one here, we have one here, we have one here, we have one here, we have here, we have here, here, and I'm hoping that price breaks above and reaches this area to push price further up. So to make things more simpler for us going into the New York session, one thing I've done here is to identify a key level at $1,830. So we have a key level sitting at $1,830. So now as we head into the New York, let me zoom out a little bit so that we can see what I'm talking about. So we already have a bullish candle, though we can't say this is bullish because this candle is just about to close. It has 5 minutes left to close, and we want to see how that candle moves. And one thing I will be suggesting is that we wait for price to break above that key level on $1,830, giving us a signal of a bullish momentum, where if we see a retest of this key level area, it could be somewhere around here, it could be but around this key level, and we look out for patterns like the double bottom structure. That's just an example. It could be any other reversal pattern that could form around that area, and then we see a breakout of the structure, then the retest on lower time frame could confirm a trend continuation to the upside. So right above the key level at $1,830 appears to be an area to take advantage of a bullish momentum here on the gold. However, if we see a significant breakdown of this bullish trend line here, the bullish trend line we identify on the weekly time frame, hope you remember. Let me show you again. So if you can't remember, let me show you. Okay, this is the bullish trend line we identified on the higher time frame. Let's go back to our lower time frame, and if we see breakdown of this bullish trend line, then that is significant. We have a bearish engulfing candle. Then we want to be looking. That's a signal that price might be going bearish. But we don't just jump into that kind of decline at this point in time, considering the long-term bullish perspective on this pair when we look at what is happening on the higher time frame. So what we want to be doing at this point is to look for price to do a retest of either that bullish trend line, or most comfortably go into that key level sitting at $1,830, and then we look out for patterns on lower time frame that support a trend continuation to the downside to join the rally to the downside. So if the rally goes down to the downside, then we want to be using this impulse leg here to be our guide going forward, as a guide to find our take profit target. So if we find that, if we have that impulse leg there, then we want to project that impulse leg into the future to find a take profit target to catch. And to be more specific, if we bring out our Fibonacci extension tool and run it through that impulse leg, we should be aiming at a take profit target between the 127.2 and the 141.4 area as our take profit target if we are going to be doing a sell on the XAUUSD. So this is my scenario here on the XAUUSD. If you remember what I told you in the past, we're expecting two scenarios here. We have the bullish momentum and the bearish momentum, and I have drawn a structure to make things simpler for us, as we have a key level at $1,830 as a parameter, as a yardstick that will guide our actions going forward. So what I will just be saying at this point is that it is very, very necessary that we remain very, very patient, as we do not want to get too excited when we see a signal, as we want to wait for confirmations before we join whatever direction price is heading at. So I think at this point I would have to call it a day, as we are already 2 minutes into the hour, and before that happens I would want to do a quick recap of what we talked about today. So the first pair we talked about, before I do that, I want to know if we have any question if you have any question, we can type it in the comment section. If you need further clarification on the gold which I just shared now, you can type it in the comment section and let us look at it together again. So I'll be giving like 10 seconds for that to happen, and while I run through the comment section. So if I'm new here, how is it going? Okay, 315, you're new here, you're welcome, but you're a little bit late, as we normally start 50 minutes, 55, 58, 59 minutes earlier. I don't know what your time zone is. 59 minutes earlier on every day we come here, we gather here to evaluate the market using price action, and we use whatever we see based on the chart patterns, trend lines, or whatever setups we see. We use that to determine where price might be heading as we head into the New York session. And on a daily basis, we come here to analyze the previous pairs we deliberated on. And if you also have an opportunity to drop in the comment section whatever pairs you think you want us to look at. So that's what we do here basically. Scott Benji, hi, how are you doing? All right, thank you for answering that question for 315. Thank you very much for that. 260, hi, how are you? Aldrin Bone, hi, hello. Okay, Bod 73, good evening. Okay, it's evening over there. 703, good afternoon. Okay, good. Okay, Scott Ben. Oh, you're welcome, Scott Benji. Thanks. Oh, Moise 82, glad to have you around. Oh, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate. Much love. Okay, so let's quickly do a recap of what we've talked about so far today. DJ Salah, give me credit. Okay, how do you mean give you credit? I don't understand what that is. All right, let's quickly do a recap